As a general rule of thumb, I consider someone to be a trash person if above their family they put religion, if they put drugs, money, friends, because to me family is the single most important thing in your life. If you don't have one, then of course you're exempt. If you somehow have some trumped up way of believing your God helped you create a child, and simultaneously, because of that, he deserves your devotion over that of your child, you to me are trash. Now I have made that a bit more of a blanket statement, but there is another thing I want to add. If, say, you are famous, and you've done all the really shitty things in your life, but now spend your free time because you're no longer relevant in the movie industry, being a, quote, comedian, which is subjective. The person I'm talking about, I've never found funny. But if you are that kind of person who then spends the majority of their free time pontificating about the importance of his own spirituality, how it is so important, to the point where he has openly stated he doesn't spend more than 24 hours with his kids because of his spiritual needs, you, and for the sake of this video it is Russell Brand, are a trash human being, who is one of those very odd people that is anti-establishment, and yet somehow the moment he got someone pregnant, married them straight away, is anti-capitalism to an extent, yet lives in a multi-million-pound home in a very exclusive area of the United Kingdom, not starting to see the hypocrisy here. Well, he's come up again in the news because he's decided consent is his new thing, and especially when it comes to his children. You see everyone, Russell believes tickling children without consent should be made illegal. Now I can certainly understand the argument if it is a case that a stranger just comes up to your child and starts tickling them. Yeah, there's an argument to be made there that that is quite inappropriate. It shouldn't be made illegal, but when you say you're going to punch them, maybe you're justified to an extent. No, you're not at all. No, you're not justified. You should simply say, back off. Maybe in a manlier voice. You don't have one, do you? Anyway, with this belief that tickling should be made illegal because children can't consent, it raises the question, and I think it's a funny one, should we ban tickling? Now I personally say no, because I use what I call uncle privilege all the time to torture my nieces and nephews into submission via tickling. It is an absolute privilege of mine that I abuse to the fullest, because it is very, very funny. And I think considering the nature of the person you are, Russell Brand, the kind of person who won't spend all his time devoted to his children because of his spiritual needs, you are not the right person to start giving out parental advice and arguing for what should and should not be made illegal when it comes to children, especially on the subject of tickling, as it is just a basic way of getting a very funny response from a child to make them laugh, smile, giggle, or if they're not ticklish at all, a really funny pout and cross-eye. Taking the fun out of playing with children in a more harmless setting is kind of typical really though, isn't it? Because I'm sure when you're busy meditating, the last thing you need is someone to tickle you, because that might, I don't know, disturb your chakra, is that what it is? Or is it thetans? I can't remember, or care to be honest. I'm not entirely sure why I wanted to focus on this for too long. I just wanted to highlight it. I did actually write an entire 2-page thing in my notebook for this video, but I decided rather than explaining the purpose of tickling, the purpose of consent, because I don't think this is actually the same type of consent, although I'm sure he could try and worm it in that direction. I could have made more fun about his career because I don't know how he got as far as he did, because he's not funny at all. Oh, I did write down how he's the king of hipsters, because isn't that cliche for everything he has, that he now argues against the very things he has, with me in asterisks writing that he should be dubbed Hipsterus Prime, because seriously I'm not a fan of Transformers, and it would be very funny to see a hipster equivalent as Russell Brand. Russell Brand, to those who don't know, is the very epitome of the elitist hipster douche. Has all the success and now argues against the very success he has, while unironically retaining his success because his family comes first, everyone, moron. Now the subject I want to touch upon for the remainder of this video comes courtesy of a government guidance piece of paperwork that has come out on the subject of trigger warnings and the no platforming of universities. This is a subject that has been going on for years. Trigger warnings, we know about those. Many years ago it was the jazz hand. With the no platforming, you could have debates about who should and should not be allowed to speak at a university. And I will always respond, they should be allowed to speak, regardless of their beliefs.
Oh, but what about Hitler?
Yeah, he can speak. If you can find him, reanimate him, and, get him up to speed on what's happened in the many, many years since he, lost Doodah, he can speak. His ideas will be summarily rejected, and he will disappear into irrelevance like Rice Gum. Or probably just go onto Twitch and become a booby streamer. Has Rice Gum started doing that yet? Doesn't matter. An argument that frequently comes up is that universities need to be more of a safe space and more inclusive with regards to students. And I tend to agree. But I tend to agree from the position that the entire campus is a safe space for ideas to be debated. That is what a safe space should be. Because free speech is more important to me than the feelings of people who disagree but have no concrete argument against it. Because to them, they fear that they cannot win. So what they do is play what many call a victim, or behave like what many called a snowflake. They gave others a very bad name in academia, because rather than have their ideas challenged, because they couldn't win the debate, they would remove the debate from happening. A number of these people, quite a lot of them, are the same people that would like to erase history, because that doesn't naturally set up an inevitable fall to repeat. I wonder if any of these people have been to Suplex City. The point is, a campus is there for us to learn, us to excel, and when we believe something, be challenged. If you can't be challenged, then how can your idea stack up against any level of scrutiny? So when people come to speak, and you put them under pressure to answer those questions, that you believe debunks their idea, or tries to get them to change their mind, by removing that person from speaking, you are not helping, you are stagnating society, and you are breeding more of those earlier mentioned snowflakes. Many people over the years though have started to call this out, which has now led to the government's guidance paper, which seeks to protect free speech and prevent speakers from being no-platformed under the guise of feels and protected groups. Because honestly, it doesn't matter what your race is, your sexuality, your gender, nothing about your identity matters. It's what's in your mind that is more important. It is why meritocracy is so important. It is why academia should be above this nonsense. It isn't, but it really should be. And that's unfortunate. It is unfortunate that, like last week, moral outrage and everything sucks, because it stops people from progressing, rather than dealing with it in a proper court, as opposed to a public flaying or burning. Ideas are being presented under the guise of them being progressive, but with nothing to validate their credibility. Because if you criticize a certain idea by somebody of what they deem to be a protected class under the intersectional banner, you are, and then insert hateful label here, used as a thought-terminating cliche to silence you with guilt, which isn't a way of winning a debate, because you're negating it by character assassinating somebody and using many, many different fallacies to seriously avoid being challenged, which is truly pathetic. And I, to an extent, support the government's guidance on protecting free speech on campuses, because a number of campuses have come under fire, some legally, for no platforming speakers because of their beliefs. Many campuses, while they'd want to enable this snowflake nonsense, this drivel, would also want to protect any and all private funding they receive, or any and all public funding they receive. So they will have to kowtow. The NUS, or the National Union of Students, can suck one. It is a joke. It is more of a joke than the Congress of the US, which I've heard many people on Twitter say should be called regress. Maybe the NUS should also be called that as well. I will of course link the government's guidance in the description below. I am interested to know what you think. I personally support it if it protects free speech and removes no platforming under the guise of, hate speech. So please let me know what you think. So I hope you all have a lovely February the 5th, or Tuesday, February the 5th, and thank you all for listening.